Though it's nearing its 65th anniversary, the Remington 870 is still one of the most versatile pump shotguns on the market today. One of the attributes that makes the shotgun so flexible is the way its barrel is mounted. While many competing shotguns like the Ithaca 37 and Mossberg 500 have barrels that attach to the end of the magazine tube, the 870's barrels attach around the magazine tube, leaving its front end unobstructed. And because all 870 magazine tubes are open-ended, their capacity can easily be expanded by simply replacing the magazine cap with a magazine extension. Unsurprisingly, magazine extension options abound for the best-selling 870. Between factory Remington extensions and offerings from a slew of aftermarket companies, there are well over 100 different kits to choose from, with capacities ranging from +1 to +18, and everything in between. Though the construction and features of these extensions vary, their basic designs tend to fall into two major varieties, single-piece and two-piece. It's very helpful to understand the distinction between these two types, as both have their respective advantages and disadvantages, and choosing the best one for your purposes requires these attributes to be considered in the context of the rest of your build. Now, you might be confused by the terms single-piece and two-piece, since an extension kit will usually include more than just one or two parts. When talking about single or two-piece extensions, we're not looking at the entire kit, just the two main functional elements of the extension itself. These elements are the female threaded portion that screws onto the magazine tube and secures the barrel, and the extended tube section that provides the additional capacity. With single-piece extensions, these two components are either machined as one seamless part, or separately made parts that are permanently attached. Either way, the result is one rigid item that screws onto the end of the gun's magazine tube and is tightened against a barrel guide ring just like a magazine cap. Two-piece extensions break up these elements into two separate components, a coupling that screws on like a magazine cap, and then an extension tube that threads into the coupling. The biggest advantages of single-piece extensions are their simplicity and ease of installation. Because they're one rigid piece, they're pretty much just elongated magazine caps, and the entire thing can lock down against the barrel guide ring by engaging the barrel's locking detent or by using a lock washer. No need for a separate clamp if you don't want to use one. This makes them very easy to install and remove. Tools are not usually needed. But this simplicity comes with a trade-off. When installed, single-piece extensions tend to have an internal gap at the joint between the base magazine tube and the extensions tube. This is due to the need for any cap or extension to be able to be tightened against the barrel's guide ring. If the barrel is not properly secured, the gun will be unreliable and potentially unsafe. Due to variations in the manufacture and attachment of the magazine tube, barrel, and barrel guide ring, along with differences between factory and aftermarket barrels and receivers, the length of magazine tube thread in front of the barrel guide ring can vary slightly, and magazine caps and extensions must be designed with some amount of extra thread travel to ensure full compatibility. For magazine caps, the gap that results from this excess space is a non-issue because it's at the very end of the magazine, and only a few spring coils ever encounter it. But with magazine extensions, shell rims and the magazine follower have to pass back and forth across this transition, and they can hang up in this gap. Installing accessories underneath the extension will make this gap even wider and can increase the likelihood of hang-ups. Good extension design and proper follower selection can mitigate the effects of this gap and ensure reliable function while avoiding compatibility issues. But not all extensions are designed as well as they could be, and some types of followers just don't handle even small gaps reliably. If you're going to use a single-piece extension, especially a +2 or longer kit, it's very important that you test it thoroughly with whatever other magazine parts you're planning on using. Two-piece extensions, with their separate extension tubes and couplings, can allow for a truly seamless internal transition if the extension is designed so that the two tube sections butt directly against each other inside the coupling. As long as the extension has enough thread, this joint will remain tight despite variations in the length of exposed magazine tube or the presence of undercap accessories. The two-piece design also makes these extensions much more versatile than single-piece kits. If you use your shotgun for multiple applications that call for different magazine capacities, a two-piece extension system can let you change extension tubes while keeping the same coupling, bracket, end caps, and sometimes even the spring. Many two-piece extension systems offer a variety of interchangeable extension tubes, and you can make custom length tubes relatively easily by shortening and capping a longer or unfinished tube. Some systems with detachable extension tube caps even let you chain multiple extension tubes together with additional couplings. This modularity can also make repairs easier and less expensive, since any damaged components can be individually replaced. If you want more configurations or need to remedy irreparable damage with single-piece extensions, you'll need to purchase additional complete extension kits. And because a single-piece extension is in essence a long magazine cap, the gun cannot function properly if it is removed or works loose under recoil. With two-piece extensions, the coupling does all the work of holding the barrel on the gun, so the barrel does not have to be loosened or removed when changing extension tubes, and if the extension tube works loose, it won't affect the gun's core functionality. In an emergency, the gun can even be used as a single shot without an extension tube installed. So why aren't all extensions two-piece if this system is so much more reliable and versatile? Well, as always, there are trade-offs. Unlike single-piece extensions that can be simply screwed on and off by hand like magazine caps, two-piece extensions are a fair bit more involved to install and remove. The coupling and extension tube need to be installed separately, and because only the coupling is secured against the barrel guide ring, the extension tube will tend to back out under recoil. To keep it in place, the tube often must be clamped to the barrel. These clamps add weight and complexity and usually require tools to remove or replace, so you'll need to have the right screwdriver or Allen wrench on hand whenever you want to take your gun apart. And you may have to pull off other parts and accessories when installing or removing some clamps. It's also important for the clamp to be properly matched to the size and spacing of your build's extension and barrel, which can be difficult with heavy profile or other non-standard barrels. Finally, not all two-piece extension kits actually come with clamps, so this may be something you'll have to purchase separately. Now, these clamps do help to reinforce the extension, and they're a popular method for mounting accessories, so for a lot of builds, this requirement may not be that big of a deal. But there are other cases where a clamp isn't really necessary, and being forced to use one just makes things more complicated. And while the butted internal mate of two-piece extensions is seamless and hang-up free in theory, it can be rather finicky in practice. Single-piece extensions are intended to function with a gap here. Assuming they're designed well and paired with the right follower, a small amount of additional misalignment or gap width is not a big deal. But because the tubes in two-piece extensions are meant to fit right up against each other, even small gaps or discontinuities at the joint can lead to hang-ups. In addition to good design and manufacturing, proper installation is essential for achieving a good mate, and there are a number of potential mistakes that can leave a gap inside the tube. Not threading the extension tube all the way into the coupling, placing an overly thick sling plate under the coupling when the extension tube doesn't have enough thread to make up the difference, snagging a spring coil between the tube sections during installation, using a clamp that doesn't match the size and spacing of the mag tube and barrel. All of these are common causes of loading and feeding problems that I've seen inexperienced owners run into. Now, some two-piece magazine extensions may use a different joint concept where instead of tightening against a magazine tube, the extension tube tightens down against an internal ridge or lip that's part of the coupling. Regarding advantages and disadvantages, this type of two-piece extension would retain all the characteristics of other two-piece extensions, except that its internal mate with the magazine tube would be much more like the mate of a single piece. I've yet to come across this type of two-piece extension for the 870, but since I haven't personally inspected every extension kit ever made, I figured I'd mention the concept. So as you can see, each type of extension has its respective advantages and disadvantages. Single-piece extensions are fast and easy to install and remove, and they will work with any 870 barrel out there, but because they're unable to adjust to normal manufacturing tolerances or the presence of certain accessories, there will almost always be an internal gap between the tube sections that can cause hang-ups if the extension is poorly designed or the wrong follower is used. And because the extensions are all one piece, the entire thing has to be replaced if it's damaged or if you want a different capacity. Two-piece extensions give you a more seamless internal transition, along with a modular system that allows you to add additional extensions or remedy damage for less expense. On the other hand, their reliability is highly dependent on proper installation, and it's easier, especially for inexperienced owners, to make mistakes there. Their need for a reinforcing clamp or bracket also adds complexity, and can make it difficult to pair them with non-standard barrels. Which one is a better choice for you? Well, that depends on a lot of things, the specifics of your build, its intended application, and even your personal preferences. Hopefully this video will get you started on figuring things out for yourself, or at least help you ask the right questions while you're planning your build. I'll be uploading more videos on various aspects of 870 magazine configurations in the coming months, so if you're from the future, you can check those out. And as always, feel free to ask in the comments below or post over on the rem870.com forums if you have questions. Until next time, please have fun and shoot safely and responsibly.